The first disciples in particular had to translate a being into their own crudity in order to understand anything of it all. This is how Nietzsche talks about the first disciples of Jesus Christ, as what he says here is that Christianity was doomed to fail from the start because the people who taught about Jesus and helped form Christianity were not as smart or as great as Jesus himself. Therefore, they could not teach him accurately. Nietzsche says they had to dumb down Jesus and therefore misteach Jesus because they were simply not of his level of intellect. And this is an interesting critique of Christianity because it shows an immense level of respect for Jesus Christ, but no respect for the religion that followed his life. And that is what I think makes Nietzsche's critiques of Christianity so interesting, because I can't think of a single other person who hates Christianity as much as Nietzsche does, but yet loves Jesus as much as he does as well. And so in a weird way, I think you could say that Nietzsche respected Jesus just as much as Christians do, or potentially even more. And so in today's video, I'm going to go over the 4 reasons why Nietzsche believed that Jesus himself wouldn't like modern Christianity and would feel disappointed in the way that the religion has transformed itself over the years. And I do think it's important to say that this isn't my view, this is Nietzsche's, but it is interesting, even though there are some points that I, and I'm sure many of you guys, would disagree with. 1. The weakness of the Christians. Nietzsche is well known for his hatred of weak people, and even went as far as to say, what is evil? Anything that stems from weakness. And while he views Jesus as an incredibly strong person, he views Christianity as a religion that breeds weakness, because in his mind, it misinterprets Jesus' teachings into a passive and meek ideology that lacks the strength that Jesus embodied. An example of this would be the turn the other cheek teaching, where Jesus famously said, "Whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also." Nietzsche would argue that Jesus meant this as a way to say, you think you're so tough, then hit me again, because the first one didn't hurt at all. But the Christian teaching is seeing it more as a pacifist approach to fighting, in which you avoid physical confrontation at all costs and just continue to show love and respect even to those that wrong you. And Nietzsche would say that this is an example of how Jesus was strong, but the way that he is taught is weak. But his critique of Christian weakness and the weakness that it breeds in society doesn't end there, as he also held the opinion that by feeling sympathy for the weak, one weakens themselves as well, as Nietzsche believed that we should despise sympathy and compassion because it neither offers any tangible help to the weak that we are compassionate for, or helps us in the long run either. And so to put it in simple terms, he thought that if you showed compassion and sympathy to someone that is weak, then you would join them in their weakness as opposed to bringing them up into your strength. 2. Christianity is joyless. According to philosophical research done by Dallas Baptist University, Nietzsche argued that Christianity denied the passions and instincts of life and therefore created joyless people. His main point here was that Christians deny themselves of certain pleasures in life for a non-existent life to come. These pleasures would be things like unmarried or meaningless sex, masturbation, etc. And this is an argument that has been taken from Nietzsche and is used by many atheists today, who make the point of saying, why would a God want you to live a half-life denied of pleasures that you have access and freedom to in this world in order to have a full life in the next world? Why not just live life the way you want now, because this is the world that you know exists, so why not maximize it rather than just having hope that there's a world in the future that you still don't really know for sure really exists? However, it would be amiss to not mention how this argument proposed by Nietzsche contradicts his very own philosophy, as he promoted the idea of the Übermensch, or the perfect man, as someone who didn't seek pleasure or joy, but rather seeked obstacles to overcome, as Nietzsche would argue that discipline leads to joy more than just seeking joy itself. And I'm sure if Nietzsche was alive today, he would be smart enough to argue his contradiction here, but I do think it's important to point it out myself, because it does, at least on the surface, appear to be quite a big contradiction on on his part, because his perfect man philosophy is predicated on the idea of denying yourself endless pleasure for a happier life. And so maybe the reason God wants you to not take part in certain pleasures is for your own happiness too. It is just a thought, and I do think it does point out a contradiction on Nietzsche's part, but like I said, I'm sure he would have found a way to justify his contradiction and argue my point, but I'm just doing my job here. 3. Christianity is false because truth doesn't exist. One of Nietzsche's most controversial arguments is that truth is only a fictional interpretation. Therefore, there is no truth in itself, so Christianity saying that there are true moral ethics that are inbuilt in humans and we must abide them is therefore false, as Nietzsche believed that we could rewrite the moral code of humanity and that morals aren't something that we inherently feel, but are rather taught to feel. And this was a point that Dostoevsky attacked in his book Crime and Punishment, where he shows how rewriting your own moral code in your head doesn't necessarily work when you actually put it into practice. As Dostoevsky argued that while you may be able to justify killing someone in your head because maybe they are a bad person and are a net negative on society, after you actually commit the act of murder, you will then feel horrible because you inherently understand that murder is bad. Despite the fact that you murdered someone who is evil, you still feel like an evil person yourself, which is why soldiers fight the enemy and fully justify killing the terrorist or other country's soldiers, yet afterward end up feeling horrified by their own actions and the person they had to become in order to do that. But nevertheless, Nietzsche did believe that with enough re-education and training, people can have their morality rewired, therefore meaning that God doesn't exist, because if he did, we would not be able to change our moral codes and not be able to change the quote-unquote truth that Christianity purports. Because in simple terms, if it was true, it wouldn't be able to be changed. 4. God shouldn't offer forgiveness to all people. Nietzsche famously said he could not believe in a God who offered this universal forgiveness, and he argued that even Christians don't believe in this God either, because how many Christians hold contempt against other people or judge other people rather than just endlessly loving all people, even those who wrong us repeatedly? And Nietzsche's point here is that people inherently understand that some people are beyond forgiveness. Therefore, why would you want to believe in a God who forgives all, even those who inflict great harm on the world? And so in Nietzsche's argument, not only does God allow atrocities to take place, but he might also forgive them after the act. And I think this is potentially the most popular argument that atheists use against God, as they see the evil that takes place and can't imagine how a good God could allow that to happen. And while I do see this as a very strong argument against God, I have also read some great counter-arguments to this point as well, but because there are much better theologians out there than me, I would rather urge you all to read and listen to some of the great counter-arguments against this point by theologians like Bishop Robert Barron and Thomas Aquinas. And as always, take what you like and drop what you don't, and always think for yourself in a well-researched way. But that being said, let me know your thoughts on Nietzsche's arguments for Jesus but against Christianity. Let me know the points you agree with or disagree with in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all on my next video.